are here today to pay our respects, to honor, and to celebrate and memorialize our dear Moorthy. He was a vibrant and dynamic man. His enthusiasm and commitment to his ideals and goals were exemplary. He was a natural leader and everyone looked up to him, mainly because of his strict self-discipline, high moral values, and level-headedness, which sets him apart from most. His departure from among our midst has created a huge void, not only for the immediate family, but for the extended circle of friends and associates, and the community at large here in Lancaster. It is very strange, and I find it very difficult to talk about Moorthy in the past tense. Painful as it may be, we have to accept reality and move on. I was on the phone with Asha and Geeta a little while before the inevitable happened. They were shattered and Shanti was in no state to talk. Hearts broken into countless fragments of emotions, and yet they have gathered themselves and come together as a family, united in love for Moorthy and for one another. It is our hope and prayer that they draw strength from one another and from their dear family and friends, and let time heal the wounds of this irreparable loss. There are no perfect human beings in this world. Everyone has their own faults and weaknesses. But I can honestly assert that Moorthy is a cut above the ordinary. It is my opinion that he is closest to perfection that anyone can get. He was a human being par excellence, and it is our good fortune it's our good fortune that he crossed our paths in our lifetime. Thank you. Asha and Geeta, in a very loving way, have put together a program. So let's get on with the I call upon Shanti Abraham to come up and read from the scriptures.
I'm Shanti Abraham. Dr. Moorthy is my beloved brother-in-law. I'm married to his wife's brother. தேவனின் பரிசுத்த வசனம் 23ஆம் சங்கீதம். கர்த்தர் என் மேய்ப்பராய் இருக்கிறார், நான் தாழ்ச்சி அடையேன். அவர் என்னை புல்லுள்ள இடங்களில் மேய்த்து அமர்ந்த தண்ணீர்கள் அண்டையில் என்னை கொண்டு போய் விடுகிறார். அவர் என் ஆத்மாவை தேற்றி தம்முடைய நாமத்தின் நிமித்தம் என்னை நீதியின் பாதைகளில் நடத்துகிறார். நான் மரண இருளின் பள்ளத்தாக்கிலே நடந்தாலும் பொல்லாப்புக்கு பயப்படேன். தேவையில் என்னோடே கூட இருக்கிறீர். உமது கோலும் உமது தடியும் என்னை தேற்றும். என் சத்துருக்களுக்கு முன்பாக நீர் எனக்கு ஒரு பந்தியை ஆயத்தப்படுத்தி என் தலையை எண்ணெயால் அபிஷேகம் பண்ணுவீர். என் பாத்திரம் நிரம்பி வழிகிறது. என் ஜீவனுள்ள நாளெல்லாம் நன்மையும் கிருபையும் என்னை தொடரும். நான் கர்த்தருடைய வீட்டிலே நீடித்த நாட்களாய் நிலைத்திருப்பேன். ஆமென்.
Next, I call upon Muthulingam to please come up and say a few words.
When I was young, he took care of me all my time. And he helped me. He was a wonderful person. He always there. Whenever I needed, he was always there. When I was 5 years old, I went with my sister to the well. She was washing her clothes. I was playing next to the well. I fell to the well and drowned. My sister screamed. He ran, came and jumped into the well and kicked me to the top. And my sister pulled me out of the, and he saved my life. And he is always there. He is active and very lovable person. He always, because my mother was principal, because he learned to swim, because after school he tied the two coconuts together and he put them in the lake and he was learning himself. That's why he was a good swimmer. He saved my life. He always wonderful person. He helped me a lot, and he was helping me my homework and help my children. My older daughter was reading a lot of books. He came to philosophy, literature, and finally she went to the philosophy. Finally he followed back at medical college. And younger daughter went to Boston University because Periappa went to Boston University. He said it was good school. He recommended. And my son learning astronomy, and he gave the astronomy books to him. And finally he went to work for NASA because always he advanced my children and me. Whenever I needed, whenever I called, he always responded. And he is a wonderful person. And he did so much for my family. And I went to his father. He followed him. I followed the footsteps to England and finally came here. He is with us. I know he'll be with us always.
Next, I request Neville Abraham.
Thank you. We all gathered here to grieve the loss of Dr. Moorthy. It's wonderful to see all of you here, even given the troublesome times we are in with the COVID being rampant. But my family and I am here to grieve his passing as well. I would like to commemorate his life and legacy, to speak of his memory that will forever be with me. This is a tribute to his life. May the Holy Spirit guide me as I speak. I'm Neville Selvakumar Abraham. Dr. Moorthy is my dearly beloved brother-in-law. I met Dr. Moorthy, a handsome, charming young man, when he was betrothed to my sister. My conversations with him were salutary and convinced me that he was a man worthy of my sister. I was proud to know that he would be my brother-in-law. After the wedding in our church in Vellavathu, Sri Lanka, I distinctly remember the trip we all took in several cars to Jaffna, our revered city in the northern peninsula, where a traditional Tamil wedding took place in honor of Dr. Moorthy's parents, other family members, and friends. During this journey, I remember the long conversations that Moorthy and I had that endeared him to me more and more. I realized that he was a man that had no guile or deceit. His outlook on the world was broad and wise, looking for ways to bridge the divide rather than sow discord. When things got out of hand in the country of our birth, he threw out a lifeline to us. To come here to the USA, taking care of us all along the way till we got established and could fend for ourselves. We were fortunate to have had him at this time for the support he gave us. Through the years, I've got to know him better and better. He was always helpful to those who came in contact with him and who were in need. His words were never angry or harsh. His discourse filled with erudition and wisdom. He was a seeker of quality, not approval. Acted on ethics, not rules. Knowledge was his passion, not possessions. There was a serenity in his presence. He was never an authoritarian. He had personal authority. He looked to forgive and forget, not to harbor grudges. He was a man for all seasons. I always looked for his company whenever I visited my sister's place. But alas, he's no more. As she said tearfully when she called me, Anna, he's gone. My heart sank as these words. A loneliness crept over me, sadness engulfed me. Now, as we prepare for the repose of his body and soul, I pray that he is with our Creator in bliss and in peace. I hope one day when it's time to cross the great divide, we will see him once again to enjoy his company in celestial fields. Thank you.
Next, I call upon Rasan and Vijay.
And Dr. Moorthy's nephew, young writer known as Russell. I would like to share briefly my memories of him, both in Sri Lanka and in the US. I still remember him motivating me by emphasizing value of education. And I recall an incident in primary school when he scolded me for not wanting to go to school. Put me on his bike, took me to school, and dropped me there. He also showed us the value of hard work early on by helping out my father's store while he was at high school. I also remember him as a brave person. I recall he chased the robber down the street in the dark. I was a boy at that time. I thought it was a brave thing to do. As well as being brave, he was very talented and intelligent. One of the proudest moments for our family was when he qualified as a medical doctor, which was first in our family. Even after he migrated to the US in 1970, he was concerned about us and looked out for the welfare of our family. He gave me the opportunity to pursue higher education outside Sri Lanka. And I'm also grateful my time spent in Lancaster with my uncle's family. While I was in college, it made adjusting to life in US so much easier for me that time. It continued to be a role model of how hard work coupled with kindness, generosity, made him a successful and respected member of the community. One of the most notable qualities of him was that his love, help, was always unconditional, with no expectation that something would need to be given in return. He was one of those rare people who really wanted to uplift other people's lives. He was a father figure and a mentor for our family, as well as an example to many others. Everyone relied on him for unconditional love, support, and guidance. His guiding spirit will continue to shine on us and everyone else he touched in his life.
Action.
Good morning. My name is Dakshin, and Dr. Moorthy was my parent. It's difficult to process the loss of someone who's been in your life, or literally the entirety of it. I still recall fondly one of the very first toys I had was a giant Five of a Mouse plush toy that Perry Pa and Perry Ma brought to the hospital when I was first born. For those of you who don't recall, the Five of a Mouse movie was about an immigrant mouse that left his home to come to the United States for a better life. Maybe they got the toy from me because they identified the mouse's biography. But I still remember that toy, and it's actually still at my parents' house because I was refused to give it away or donate it during spring cleanings. And that was just the very first of countless pleasant memories. There were the weekends growing up when my older sister and I would go visit and go swimming at family functions where Perry would always have his nice camera, taking seemingly countless photos, capturing the memories of his loved ones. The Thanksgiving dinners at Perry and Perryma's house that I always look forward to is a constant in my life, from grade school through college, up until now through my working life. There were the spirited debates he and my sister would have on Western philosophy, and the engrossing discussions that he and I would have on astronomy and space exploration, all a testament to his insatiable intellectual curiosity. And also, as my sister would want to make sure I mentioned, there were all the times he would sneak Cadbury chocolate store in secret whenever she went over, as a small child, but even well into her 20s. There were also times that were less pleasant, but that still spoke to his character and the love and support he showed us. Like when I was a young child, maybe 8 or 9, and I had severe asthma attacks at night, struggling to breathe. My parents would call him to ask what they should do. Even if it was 1 a.m., he would immediately jump in his car and come over just to check on me. Or later, when my dad had a large health scare, Paradippa was the one in the hospital, not only to watch over him, but also to comfort all of us. And as much love and caring as he showed towards his family, we all know that it wasn't just his family that he showed such compassion towards. He was a doctor, a healer, but his desire to help didn't stay within the hospital. As soon as he moved to Antelope Valley, he worked with others to find ways to support the community, from establishing critically needed health centers for those most in need, to charitably supporting local art institutions. He knew that treating someone's physical ailments was important, but it was also important to nourish the mind, to support local culture and community. In that way, he really was a leader in the community. He was never the loudest voice in the room, but he was always the strongest heart, someone who showed his leadership through action. It was a leadership motivated by empathy and compassion that, as my dad described earlier, existed from when he was just a boy with a baby brother in Sri Lanka, to only being a stalwart of our community here in the U.S., someone whose compassion touched countless lives. My dad was recently telling me about his experience just a couple days ago when he went to Kinko's to print some portraits of Paradippa. The cashier saw the photo and she immediately recognized him and spoke about what a great and caring doctor he was, that she would cover the cost of all the portraits of the honor. It was a small interaction in a busy day, but it was a bright example of the man's compassion towards everyone he met and the impact he left. From his loved ones who've known him for decades to patients who have only met him a handful of times. It didn't matter if he was in the doctor's office or in his living room. He always demonstrated the same act of empathy and humanity to do whatever he could to make the person standing in front of him to be that much healthier, that much happier, that much better. And I think his success in doing so is pretty clear, just looking at the people here, the people watching online, and the outpouring of grief and condolences from people around the world. I just want to share one final memory of him. It's a simple one, but a lasting one for me. It was about 12 years ago. Paradippa drove all the way up to the Bay Area just to watch my college graduation. He played such a large role in getting me to that point in my life, and seeing his smiling face in the audience filled me with joy and pride. It's a feeling I know my sisters, who unfortunately couldn't be here, felt as well. He always expressed how proud he was of us, no matter how big or small our achievements were. I actually want to close with a quote from the keynote speaker for my college graduation, a world-renowned contemporary philosopher. It was from Oprah Winfrey. She said, quote, "Leadership is about empathy. It's about having the ability to relate to and connect with people for the purpose of inspiring and empowering their lives." I think that summarizes Paradippa pretty well. He was a leader of the community that inspired us and empowered us, and he did that through his seemingly limitless compassion and empathy. He helped build relationships within communities. And in this difficult year, now punctuated by this significant loss for all of us, it is again the relationships and the communities among us that he helped build that are helping us cope with this loss. That's an enduring legacy of his that will always remain. So I just want to end by saying thank you, Paradippa, for everything you did for me throughout my life, everything you did for my family, and for all the people here and the people watching online, the people in multiple countries across the world with whom you shared your compassionate heart. Thank you.
photographs and memories, Christmas cards you sent to me. All that I have are these to remember you. Memories that come at night take me to another time, back to a happier day when I called you mine. But we sure had a good time when we started way back when. Morning walks and bedroom talks, oh how I loved you then. Summer skies and lullabies, nights we couldn't say goodbye, and of all of the things that we knew, not a dream survived. Photographs and memories, all the love you gave to me, somehow it just can't be true. It's all I've left of you. But we sure had a good time when we started way back when. Morning walks and bedroom talks, oh how I loved you then. Photographs and memories, Christmas cards you sent to me. All that I have are these to remember you. Memories that come at night take me to another time, back to a happier day when I called you mine. But we sure had a good time when we started way back when. Morning walks and bedroom talks, oh how I loved you then. Summer skies and lullabies, nights we couldn't say goodbye, and of all of the things that we knew, not a dream survived. Photographs and memories, all the love you gave to me, somehow it just can't be true. It's all I've left of you. But we sure had a good time when we started way back when. Morning walks and bedroom talks, oh how I loved you then. Photographs and memories, Christmas cards you sent to me. All that I have are these to remember you. Memories that come at night take me to an...
I call upon Dr. Sri.
family, friends and colleagues of Dr. Moorthy. My name is Sri and I worked closely with Dr. Moorthy. His passing has profoundly affected us all because he was an exceptional human being. I'm sure you will hear an infinite amount of stories from people, both young and old, about his generosity with both his time and resources to many who were in need. I would like to share some stories with you to celebrate the life of this wonderful person I had the honor to call my lifelong friend. I met Dr. Moorthy in 1960 when we were both attending Jaffna Hindu College. He was a brilliant student who always answered the difficult questions with great ease and impressed all the teachers. I envied his intelligence because at a time when corporal punishment was meted out to the other students, Dr. Moorthy was always exempted from corporal punishment. We became friends and even attended medical school together, where he excelled as well. As a student, I also selfishly loved being around Dr. Moorthy because he always laughed loudly at all my dry jokes. He continued to do that lately also. After I came to America, Moorthy taught me how to drive on the freeway. That was about 46 years ago. He had a Dodge Dart and told me to drive it on the highway while he sat in the passenger seat and coached me. Little did I know that his Dodge Dart had a unique function. Every time I applied the brakes, the car would veer to the right. Already nervous on my first freeway drive, I told him it was hard to steer when that happened. Moorthy calmly responded that I needed to improvise and anticipate it by steering to the left every time I applied the brakes. After he told me that, I became more nervous. But his patience had allowed me to lose my nervousness, so much so that when I bought my first car, my wife Sita and I went on a joyride with me confidently driving on the freeway now that I had been taught by Dr. Moorthy. And of course, that when I applied the brakes on my new car, it stayed straight. Also, regarding the milestones, Dr. Moorthy was also instrumental in getting me the internal medicine residency in New York City, and following my residency, he invited me to come to California and got a job for me at the county hospital here in Lancaster. He even set up my Cal City practice where I have been working for 40 years, and he supplied all the medical equipments free of charge at the beginning. This is a testament to his value system, his morals and ethics, and again his compassionate nature. He was not only a fine clinician, he was also well known for his patient care and his bedside manner. He served many underprivileged patients completely free of charge. He was honest, reliable, and dedicated himself to his patients. I remember Dr. Moorthy sent one of his patients to see me in my office, a sweet 80-year-old woman, and after I finished examining her, I turned to leave the room. She stopped me saying, "Where is my hug and the kiss?" I was surprised at the request, but I obliged because I knew that this was an important connection she had with Dr. Moorthy. My last story is that a couple of years back, Moorthy asked me to cover him on a Saturday, as we often did for each other. I came to the room of another elderly patient who, upon entering her room, immediately and gruffly asked me, "Who are you?" I said, "I am Dr. Sri. I was asked to see you by Dr. Moorthy today." "Where is Dr. Moorthy?" "He's not here." "I know that. He's at home resting and sleeping after a long week." Then she suddenly changed. "Oh, my poor child, he needs rest. Good that he's resting." It is stories like this that were constant reminders of how many lives he has touched, both here in America and in Sri Lanka. He lived boldly and beautifully, and we were drawn to him because of his gentle ways. I cannot tell you how much I will miss Dr. Moorthy. I know it will hit me again and again when I want to call him to talk about patients or to repeat my jokes to someone who will appreciate them. But I too am glad that he is resting now. Now I would like to thank the team of doctors, nurses and clinicians for their steady work in tending to Dr. Moorthy's health. Dr. Merla, hematologist, Dr. Gill and Dr. Anil Kumar, cardiologist, Dr. Ahmed and Dr. Damle, pulmonologist, Dr. Perumal Sami and Dr. Tyagi, gastroenterologist, Dr. Inbam Arul and Dr. Karunyan Arul, Dr. Guzman, hospitalist, the nephrology group at Palmdale Hospital, and Dr. Varapradasam. Thank you.
It is rare to find a friend who will go out of his way to help you, support you, and to comfort you in times of distress, and truly rejoice with you in happier times. Rarer still is to find a friend who senses your worries and concerns and steps in spontaneously in an attempt to help you unasked. I can honestly claim that in my lifetime I was fortunate enough to find such a rare gem in Moorthy. He was a very dear friend to me and to my family. I had just come to the United States and started my internship in Poughkeepsie, New York. It was the height of winter. I was on call, so I was in the hospital the whole day. Moorthy, who was working in New York City, had come with his family to Poughkeepsie for lunch to one of our friends' house. And while he was there, he learned that my son, who was 1.5 years old at the time, was having a high fever, and that my wife was having a tough time dealing with that. He immediately left his lunch and went down and found that my son was running a temperature of 103 degrees. He wrapped him up in a blanket, put him on his shoulder, and walked out of the house and walked in 1.5 foot of snow quite a ways to the emergency room and had him taken care of and brought him back, gave all the instructions as to what medicine to give when and so on to my wife, and then introduced himself. I am Dr. Moorthy. Because at that time, Moorthy was just an acquaintance to me. He and I knew of each other in medical school, but never had any personal contact with him. But that's the kind of person he is, and that's the spontaneity that I was referring to earlier. When the need is there, he would step in right away without any consideration of any risks or consequences. He involved himself and treated us in such a way that we felt very special, to the extent that we considered him more of a family member rather than a friend. And then we come to realize that that is the way he had been to everyone. He treated everyone with love, respect, and compassion. He was respected and adored by his colleagues and friends, by his office staff, the hospital staff, and most importantly, his patients. For them, an office visit was not for physical examination and treatment only. They took that as an opportunity to express their worries and concerns to a sympathetic listener who not only consoled and comforted them, but gave them good advice. As for his family, he was a tower of strength. In life and in death, he made sure that they are well taken care of. Never tired, even after a long day of hard work, to come home and cook a sumptuous dinner for his family. Or after a week of hectic night calls and going with very little sleep, when he gets the weekend off, most of us in his place would want to kick back, rest and relax, and catch up on lost sleep, but not Moorthy. He would be more concerned about his family who were bored at home while he was working. And he would take them out for a fun-filled weekend trip. That's the kind of man, the kind of husband and father that's idealized in folklore, which Moorthy personified. From a spiritual standpoint, Moorthy abhorred blind belief and superstitions. He was well read and scrutinizingly analytical of facts, and had come to accept the existence of a higher intelligence behind this wondrous universe. Consequently, he respected all religions and faiths as different paths leading to the same goal. Our scriptures say that our main purpose in this life is to help others selflessly with no expectation of reward or recognition. In doing so, one is able to transcend their ego and merge with the infinite self. In that regard, Moorthy had fulfilled his responsibilities and obligations to the utmost. He led a full and contented life. And that's the thought that his loving family can cherish and seek consolation in. Thank you. I would call upon Dr. Karunyan Arul.
Friends, we have gathered today with heavy hearts to say farewell to a dear friend of ours. My name is Karunyan Arulanandan, and I was a very good friend of Moorthy's for a long time. We are also gathered today to thank God for his remarkable life and to celebrate a life that has uplifted people in all walks of life all over the world. I think it must have been his broad and ready smile, his transparent genuineness, and his warmth that exuded from him that made everyone who met Moorthy instantly comfortable with him. As I was when the first day I met him, and that was in December 31st, 1970. That was the first day, that was the day after I landed in the US to start a new life. Moorthy had arrived just 6 months earlier and was an intern in the Bronx. He and Shanti invited us, new arrivals to the US, to join them at their New Year's party. Our lives have been intertwined ever since. We lived for a year in the same triplex in Brooklyn, New York, and then for over 4 decades in Lancaster as friends, as colleagues, as neighbors, raising our children together, and as business partners practicing medicine in Lancaster. These long years of association gave me the privilege to witness the life of an extraordinary person. Moorthy was kind to everyone, as has been stated before in this today. He was kind to his family, his patients, the staff with whom he worked, his professional colleagues, his friends, and even strangers he met. He would try to soothe anyone who was troubled, sharing an encouraging word or a joke to ease the situation. He would also step and help anyone in need. I still remember the time in New York when he drove over 250 miles in the night after work, because our family was driving to Washington and we were stranded on the freeway in Maryland. Our car broke down and I called him from the freeway. And I called him and told him of our plight, and he said, just wait for me. And we waited, and he drove all that way in the middle of the night to come and pick our little children and get back to some safety. Moorthy had this intuitive gift of understanding people, their fears, their hopes and concerns. His patient loved him not only because of his excellent clinical, diagnostic and technical skills, but also because he would understand and address them as people. He also had this deep understanding of the mind-body connection in medicine. He practiced holistic approach to medicine long before such concepts were widely understood and accepted by physicians trained in universities. He started a group called the Tuesdays with Moorthy group, free of charge and open to the whole community. His intent was to educate patients on the mind-body connection, including through meditation and lifestyle changes. Moorthy paired this remarkable generosity and kindness of spirit with hard work, extraordinarily personal discipline, and great business acumen that made him a successful entrepreneur. I believe his drive to succeed grew out of his experiences in early life. which he shared with me on the many occasions when he and I would discuss a wide range of topics, from the purpose and meaning of life to healthcare to strife and conflict in the world. Growing up, his family was not wealthy, and as a child, he would get up early and help sell vegetables in the family store before leaving for school. Despite these circumstances, he excelled academically, winning a scholarship to a prestigious high school and then admission to the medical school in Sri Lanka through a very competitive process. After he came to New York for his postgraduate studies, he excelled as a resident, winning an award during his training, was made the chief resident, and then he was chosen to be a fellow in gastroenterology in one of the most prestigious programs at that time in Boston. Then he moved to Lancaster to practice and serve this community, and this community has been exceptionally fortunate to have had his services for all these years. This trajectory of success required not just a brilliant mind and constant hard work, but also faith and optimism that were equally important features of Moorthy's personality. These traits were on full display when he brought together some over 30 physicians to create the Sierra Medical Plaza in the early 80s, and later when he helped organize Sierra Medical Group, and as one of the founders of the Children's Center in the Antelope Valley and the Lancaster Performing Arts Center, among the many other endeavors that he undertook for the benefit of the community. Although Moorthy was focused on supporting his community in the Antelope Valley, he never forgot his roots in Sri Lanka. He and Shanti helped many, including members of the extended family. They were also very generous to many of my members of my own extended family who benefited from their wisdom, support and counsel during the years they lived in Lancaster after being displaced by the war in Sri Lanka. Although he accomplished so much in life, Moorthy always remained a very simple person, unpretentious, equally comfortable taking care of the uninsured patients or recent immigrants, as well as governors and mayors. I believe his simplicity came from a deep spirituality. Moorthy saw people and life through a spiritual lens. He was a searcher and read extensively and understood different spiritual traditions. He loved nature and admired beauty, which led me to jokingly tease him as a tree hugger. He had an openness of mind that allowed him to connect with people from diverse backgrounds, whatever their faiths or economic or social circumstances may be. I personally do truly believe that it was Providence that brought Moorthy into my life. I was deeply blessed that my life intersected closely with Moorthy's, and Moorthy and his family, Shanti, Asha and Geeta, and we have been enriched by that experience. In times like this, I like to take comfort in the beautiful words of Rabindranath Tagore. Say not in grief that he is no more, but say in thankfulness that he was. A death is not the extinguishing of a light, but the putting out of a lamp, because the dawn has come. Moorthy's dawn has come. He has departed to the next phase of his journey. I will miss him. Goodbye, my friend. I'm sure he's smiling, and I look forward to meeting you again. God giveth, God taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Thank you.
If I could save time in a bottle, the first thing that I'd like to do is to save every day till eternity passes away, just to spend them with you. If I could make days last forever, If words could make wishes come true, I'd save every day like a treasure, and then again I would spend them with you. But there never seems to be enough time to do the things you want to do once you find them. I've looked around enough to know you're the one I want to go through time with. If I had a box just for wishes and dreams that had never come true, the box would be empty except for the memory of how they were answered by you. But there never seems to be enough time to do the things you want to do once you find them. Looked around enough to know you're the one I want to go through time with. If I could save time in a bottle, the first thing that I'd like to do is to save every day till eternity passes away, just to spend them with you. If I could make days last forever, if words could make wishes come true, I'd save every day like a treasure, and then again I would spend them with you. But there never seems to be enough time to do the things you want to do once you find them. I've looked around enough to know you're the one I want to go through time with. If I had a box just for wishes and dreams that had never come true, the box would be empty except for the memory of how they were answered by you. But there never seems to be enough time to do the things you want to do once you find them. I've looked around enough to know you're the one I want to go through time with.
I call upon Asha and Geeta now.
I'm Sinn Moorthy, Dr. Moorthy's daughter. I'm not a great public speaker like my dad, but this is important, so I will do my best. This is hard, and I know this is hard for so many of you, because he was like a father to many of you too. He just had that in him, so full of love that he needed to share it with you. How can I describe my father? We call him Appa. It's hard for me to tell you what our Appa was to us, so let me tell you a story instead. Once upon a time, there was a little boy. He lived on a small island off another island. Even though he was little, only 4 years old, he worked hard on his family farm. He would rise early to feed the animals, tend to the paddy fields, and gather cow dung for the fire before he went to school. Often he thatched the roof, wove mats or fixed the fence with palmyra leaves. In the nights, he would lie on a branch in the trees, tying himself to the tree so he wouldn't fall. He would look up at the stars and wonder. It was a beautiful, simple life, but often his family would go hungry, his mom skipping meals so she could feed her children. The boy would go to school and was very good at his studies. He loved to study and learn. In fact, when he had to choose between food and a pencil, he would choose the pencil because he was so hungry to learn. They didn't have kerosene for the lamps, so he would diligently study under the street lamp near his house at night. Eventually, he learned to read and write, which many in his village did not know how to do. They soon got to know of this boy. They would line up, and he would write letters for them to send to their family and friends. And because he loved to read, he set up a little shack and built a little library for the people of the town. He was very resourceful and innovative. Once he was tasked with the job of taking the family goat to town. It was a long way over a narrow causeway. It would have taken a long time to cross by foot, so he thought to put the goat in a box and tie it onto his bicycle to ride to town. Everyone looked in amazement as the boy rode by. One day he was playing soccer, which he loved to do, and he hurt his toe badly. His nail had come off, and he was in so much pain. So he went to the doctor and waited to be seen. But by the time it was his turn, it was time for the doctor to go. He left without seeing the boy, because he had a game of golf to play. The boy, suffering in pain, vowed he would become a doctor, and if he did, he would never turn a patient away. He kept studying hard and winning all the awards in school, and eventually got a scholarship. When he grew up, he got many offers. First, he was offered a chance to become a pilot, one of only 2 in the country, but his mother didn't want him to go, so he stayed. Then eventually he got into medical school. His mother still didn't want him to go, but his elder sister convinced her she should let him go. He excelled in his studies and began his career in the capital. While working there, he met a young lady. She was walking down the hall one day with her friend, and he stopped them and encouraged them to apply for an internship with the doctor he was working for. The young lady got the position, and they worked together for a little while. She was impressed with him, his stunning white smile, and his keen ability to diagnose. They became close, but they came from different backgrounds, and soon parted ways. They both got posts in different towns and moved far from each other. However, one day, the young lady's friend decided to visit the town where he was living, and so she decided to join. She heard he was very sick and visited him in the hospital. She had a nice visit, but soon had to return back to work. Not long after, she was sitting and resting before heading home, when she saw the man walking her way. He told her he was soon leaving for America, and he asked her to marry him. He said, "I'll go to America and come back, and we'll get married." She said, "No way. You marry me first, and we'll go together." The very next week, they got married, and with $50 in his pocket, they flew to America. They moved to a big city called New York, the biggest city in the most modern country in the world. He would ride his bike to work in moonlight at night. He counted his receipts, wrote every penny he spent in a ledger. They had 2 children, and he worked very hard, becoming chief president and skipping his final year. Eventually, he got an invitation from his friend to come to California, all the way on the West Coast. So he left the snowy city and moved to the desert. He started a practice and built many businesses, many the first of their kind. He loved his patients, nurses, and staff. It was said he had a healing touch. He could often look at his patients and know what they had. He had kind of a sixth sense, and sometimes He would counsel his patients, knowing they just needed to talk. He would give them his number so they could call him whenever they needed. He loved his community and served it with diligence and devotion. With all that he did for his job and his community, he still spent lots of time playing with his children. He was so much fun. He would carry them on his shoulders and make them laugh with glee, play chase and hide and seek. He taught them to swim, play soccer, and ride bikes. He would take them on the weekends for long drives to beaches, mountains, and local towns to explore. Eventually, he took them all over the world. He spoiled them with whatever they wanted. He could never say no. He never got angry with them. He was patient and kind. He taught them how important it was to be good to others, to smile. It may brighten someone's day. To do the right and moral thing, to help others in need, to always think positive, and if you put your mind to it, you can do anything you want. He worked hard to make sure they were taken care of and carefully planned for their futures. He was always there for wise counsel. They had everything they needed and more. He gave whatever he had and would tell them, "What do I need? I don't need anything. I'm a vegetarian. I only eat grass." They were so blessed to have him. He was the most loving father. He was brave, he was bold, he was a counselor, a mentor, a confidant, a caretaker. He stood up for what he thought was right, no matter what the consequences. He was humble and helped others as if they were his own. He was kind and had compassion for other people, no matter their background or station. He loved his community and always tried to give back. He was always there to turn to for advice, support, and reassurance. He was that steady, calm voice that gave reassurance in times of trouble and need. He was a great man because he was a good man. So I tell you this story of my father, who lived an incredible life, a life written like a storybook. He was a fairy tale father. He often said he was guided by an unseen hand, and he still couldn't believe how he was here. He called it a quantum leap. He often looked back wondering how he was here in America, so far from the village where he came. The boy with no shoes and nothing to eat. Somehow he never lost that wonder he had as a little boy. Looking at the stars and imagining anything was possible. He was a dreamer who somehow made his dreams come true, and on the way made so many others' dreams come true as well. We are overwhelmed with the number of people my father's life has touched. So many people telling us they would not be where they are if not for my father. I can't imagine a world without him, but it seems a little bit of him goes on in all the lives he touched. Good night, my sweet Appa. Thank you for who you were and everything you have done. May you have sweet slumber and soon rise to your place among the stars.
Thank you all so much for being here today. Your presence, whether in person or online, means so much to us. Though this is a very difficult time for our family, there have been many who have shouldered us along the way, and we would like to extend our deepest gratitude to the many doctors who both cared for Appa and provided valuable assistance and counsel, including Dr. Vijay Shanmugaraja, Dr. Sarami and Dr. Domlin, Dr. Gabriel Hunt, Dr. Stephen Sykes and Lali Maha, Dr. Guzman, Dr. Oman and Dr. Kanwal Gill, Dr. Sri Jayaraja, Dr. Amritaj Merla, Dr. Anil Kumar, Dr. Paramusami, Dr. Ravi Krishnadasan, Dr. John Desran, Dr. Uma Mahadevan, as well as Dashani Mahadevan, and to all the doctors, nurses, and staff at Cedars-Sinai Hospital, the California Rehabilitation Center, AV Physicians Concierge, and the Palmdale Regional Medical Center. We are truly grateful. Special thanks must be also extended to Dr. Chitta Vyagaraja for his help in the service, as well as to Mr. Jayaraja and his wife Dolly, and to Dr. Byron Pillai and his wife Rajat for their constant, unfailing love and support, to Sakti Ramanathan and her husband, Mr. Shamnath, for his tireless and selfless assistance in the service, and to Yoga for his overwhelming kindness and generosity. We are very grateful to our cousin Vijay Kanakaratnam and his wife Ravesha, as well as to Joey Alvarez and the Hallie Wilson team. Finally, no words can adequately express our gratitude to Dr. Karyan and Impramani Arul for their support both on the medical and emotional fronts, and for all their guidance and help with the necessary arrangements. Finally, our heartfelt thanks goes out to all the uncles and aunties, and to friends and relatives, both far and near, who have been so supportive, sending us kind words of condolence, abundant food and flowers. We are so grateful to have you in our lives and deeply appreciate your love and care during this difficult time. We would like to close the service for Appa today with his favorite prayer from Psalm 23, a psalm of King David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Thank you all.
It was not grieve as much as to admire the man that he was. Moorthy acquitted himself admirably in all the different roles that he played: son, brother, husband, father, uncle, friend, doctor, and so on. He had done very well in his life and earned a well-deserved rest. You look at him now, no need of masks, no social distancing, no self-isolation, no more torments from the physical body. He had liberated himself, and it is our supplication to the good Lord that for all the meritorious deeds that he had done, that the Lord bless his soul with eternal peace and happiness. Thank you. Now I ask the guests to please come up and pay your respects to Moorthy. After that, the family will do their respects.